Originating as a comic book series and then transitioning to video games and movies, Aliens vs. Predator as a concept appeared to be pure gold, as both series are staples of light horror action films. While I think they failed to capture the full potential on the silver screen, most people would argue that most of the early game adaptations were pretty good. But after the series seemed to fizzle out following the extremely disappointing film adaptations, Aliens vs. Predators 2010 came along. But was it truly the final nail in the coffin for the series, or was it just an underrated classic that we should revisit? The ironic part of this game is that the Marine campaign feels more like what Aliens Colonial Marines was gunning for in the E3 trailer than Colonial Marines would actually come out with. Aliens vs. Predator 2010 may not really capture the ideal story of a Marine's interaction with the respective alien species, but it does it marginally better than Colonial Marines would. The gunplay is about the same, but you can tell that Rebellion was trying to capture the feel of the 1999 AVP, whereas Colonial Marines aimed for a slower modern feel. This would continue to the aesthetics, as guns aren't fully movie accurate, but do harken back to the 1999 AVP, albeit with 7th generation graphics. Despite it being older than Colonial Marines, I think it actually looks better. This is probably due to its more diverse environments, but even the character design seems better. However, a lot of my opinions might be swayed by the fact that the Colonial Marines cutscenes were absolutely hideous. I think that the soundtrack in AVP is also better. Not that either is that bad. It just has a more gamey feel that fits the AVP series better than the more cinematic feel that Colonial Marines track was going for. I also think that the gun, xenomorph, and predator sounds are excellent, though again, the guns aren't fully movie accurate. Gameplay is also pretty good. The Marine campaign handles pretty well. While it is a little arcade-like, I actually had a decent amount of fun with it. Guns are mostly good and have different firing modes. The game feels pretty fast-paced and doesn't feel as cheap as Colonial Marines. Playing as a Predator is actually really fun. While the jumping might be a little bit clunky, it is handled pretty well. Your approach is more stealth-focused, and it makes you feel like a complete badass. The melee isn't the best, but it does act as an incentive to prioritize stealth takedowns, especially against the Marines. The xenomorphs are also more stealth-focused, but prioritize more strategic approaches, since you don't have the fallback options that the Predator has. The story also covers 3 campaigns, and while they are okay, they feel very similar to Colonial Marines. The overall delivery just isn't there. It feels like they aren't really allowed to do anything interesting with the story, lest it tread on the feet of the other properties in their respective series. It just feels a little bit boring, but I don't really feel that it's entirely their fault. Aliens vs. Predator 2010 is yet another example of 7th generation inaccessibility. While it does have subtitles, there is no way to change the language in-game. They do have decent difficulty settings, key rebindings, and a setting that allows easier movement for the xenomorphs. Unfortunately, Aliens vs. Predator 2010 doesn't really do all that well in convenience either. It is available physically for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, but is only available digitally on Steam. While better than some games, the settings options are fairly bare bones, but due to its age, it's likely to run well on most modern hardware, all while largely looking better than the newer Colonial Marines. I would say that the overall experience is pretty good. Each species plays differently, and combat generally feels good. It does feel a little more arcade-like, but still manages to capture the tone well. Visuals have held up pretty well, but the story is a bit of a letdown. I feel that this game does a lot of things right, and is a little less disappointing than Colonial Marines was, but I don't think that it can earn more than a meh. But what do you think? Let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next one.